Scott and Robert to answer a minute or so the question, two-part questions. Your philosophy of city government versus city council manager, city manager responsibilities. First, how do you split that? How do you see that? The second part is, how do you see yourselves operating as a member of a team, as an individual, and what are the priorities of the city council?
Thanks, Glenn, for that question. I think it's an excellent question, and I think it's a very important question. One of the functions that the new council is going to have to be able to do, the new council is going to have to be able to work together. But unlike my friend Mr. Coleman over here, and I like Chuck a lot, but I differ with him about one very important, I think, concept, and that is that Chuck stresses unanimity at council, and so does Mayor Bob. They like for the council to vote together. I believe healthy debate is a good thing. I think that some 3-2 votes on council would be a wonderful thing. And I'm very encouraged that the new council may be able to have some healthy debate about some issues. I want to be able to go to a council meeting not already knowing the outcome. I know that the current council has a tendency to establish predetermined outcomes. I think that's pretty well known, and I don't think that's a good thing. With regard to the city manager concept, I think that having a strong city manager is a very good thing. I think there are things about that that can be very useful for a city. I'm comfortable with our situation in which the council hires and fires both the city manager and the city attorney. I think that's a good thing to provide checks and balances. I also believe it's a good thing that council be able to interact in more ways. I don't like bureaucracy, and I don't like, and I'll address this in my closing, I don't like added encumbrances on the council in the way that they are able to deal with matters. I think it's a good thing when council interacts with the public. I think they become more informed. I think they become more aware, and I think they learn to appreciate their jobs. We have a situation right now on council where a number of members are either appointed or ran unopposed. I went to all the county speeches and what have you, and I kept hearing candidates say, you know, I really am glad I'm running unopposed. And I thought, that's not a good thing for the county. We need some healthy debate and some contested races. And I believe the same thing is true on the Kerrville City Council. I think it's a good thing that we're having these races, and I think that it's very encouraging for our city.
Well, I'm with Robert, sort of. Well, actually, I'm not with Robert at all, because I really would like to run unopposed. I'm just not a conflict guy. The city council, city manager type of government means that as an individual council member, I have zero authority. Period. Zero. None. Zip. As a combined council, we run the show. But individually, we're nobody. And I like it that way. And I think it's good for city council members not to go down there and try to micromanage. Can you imagine running a company and having 5 gadflies hanging out in your office, trying to tell people what to do? I don't think that's a good idea. So, and I will tell you that the reason we have the present city manager is because the former city manager didn't quite understand that relationship that said council members are 0 until they're all together, and then they're 100%. So I think it's a good form of government, and we ought to hang on to it. Mrs. Keeble and I had a conversation a few months ago when I talked to her about good old boys. I told her, I said, Stacy, there is a good old boy network, but you don't have to be good, you don't have to be old, and you don't have to be a boy. It's about relationships. And sometimes it's just a good thing to know. Now, I can't ask Chuck a question, for example, and then call Stacy. That's called serial polling. It's illegal, and you don't do it. But I can talk to Chuck, and I know Chuck, and We talk on the phone occasionally, and I can kind of predict how Chuck is going to vote. And so as I advised Mrs. Keeble, I said, you know, when you have something to bring to the council, why don't you give me a call? Let's talk about it. Maybe you're going to present something that we presented 2 years ago and it failed for whatever reason. I can tell you about that. Or maybe I could say, you know, I would sort of support that, but I'm not really sure Chuck would. So that when you go into the meeting, things aren't predetermined, but you kind of have your ducks in a row, and it's more likely that you can convince folks. That's legal, that's moral, that's ethical, that's smart business.